Even in his later years at Princeton, Albert Einstein continued to tackle the universe's biggest questions, seen here before a blackboard in 1944. He often dressed casually, focusing his immense intellect on the frustrating search for a unified field theory. Decades before the word selfie existed, this family in the 1940s figured out how to take their own group photo using a long pole. It was a clever, homespun solution that predates the modern selfie stick by a lifetime. A turn-of-the-century view of Paris shows horse-drawn omnibuses sharing the cobblestone streets with newfangled electric trams. The iconic Notre Dame Cathedral stood watch over a city rapidly transitioning from the old world to the new. Photographed for a 1991 Rolling Stone feature, Winona Ryder was at the peak of her fame from movies like Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice. Her distinct look here became emblematic of the era's moody, alternative style. Hollywood star Debbie Reynolds shares a moment with her young daughter, Carrie Fisher, in this 1961 photo. That little girl in the headband would grow up to become a pop culture icon, known to millions as Princess Leia. Photographer Charles Marville documented these public urinals, known as pissoirs, which were a common sight on the streets of 19th century Paris. Emperor Napoleon III had them installed as part of a massive citywide sanitation and modernization project. A 4-year-old Prince Charles looks thoroughly unimpressed while attending his mother's coronation in 1953. Sandwiched between his grandmother and aunt for the hours-long ceremony, his expression perfectly captures how any kid would feel. British actress Charlotte Rampling was famous for her intense roles in controversial European films throughout the 1970s. This striking 1976 portrait reflects the unapologetic and artistic presence she was known for on screen. When National Geographic wanted to profile Steve Jobs in 1981, he insisted the photo be of him on his beloved BMW motorcycle. He felt the bike represented the blend of high-quality German engineering and design that he greatly admired. Inside the Douglas Aircraft Plant in Long Beach, women workers assembled the fuselage of a B-17 Flying Fortress during Wabitui. These Rosie the Riveters were essential to the wartime industrial effort, taking on skilled manufacturing jobs previously held by men. In 1937, this massive display was erected in fascist Italy, with the words, "Cinematography is the strongest weapon," emblazoned on the hillside. It was a clear statement from Mussolini's regime about their belief in the power of film as a propaganda tool. This color image of the Grand Canal in Venice isn't a modern colorization. It's a photochrome print from around 1900. The process involved transferring a black and white negative onto multiple lithographic stones, one for each color. The massive hull of the supertanker Esso Hibernia dwarfs a street of houses in Wallsend, UK, during its launch in 1970. The ship was so large, it had to be launched sideways into the River Tyne, creating a huge wave that spectators had to flee from. A promotional shot for the 1983 film The Outsiders features a cast of young actors who would dominate Hollywood for years to come. Future stars like Tom Cruise, Patrick Swayze, and Matt Dillon were all brought together by director Francis Ford Coppola. Donald Sutherland's hippie tank commander Oddball stands next to Clint Eastwood's Private Kelly in a shot from the 1970 film Kelly's Heroes. The on-screen chemistry between the two wildly different characters was a huge part of the movie's lasting appeal. A young Debbie Harry is captured here in 1965, long before she became the iconic punk rock frontwoman of Blondie. Her look was more girl next door than the platinum blonde trailblazer she would become a decade later. Standing at 8 feet 11.1 inches, Robert Wadlow was the tallest man in recorded history, photographed here just months before his passing in 1940. His incredible height was due to a pituitary gland issue, and he required leg braces and a cane to walk. Director George Lucas and actor Mark Hamill braved the harsh Tunisian desert during the difficult 1976 shoot for Star Wars. Wars. The unforgiving location stood in for the planet Tatooine, and the production was plagued by rare sandstorms and technical problems. In a 1952 photo session, Marilyn Monroe poses for photographer Philippa Halsman in a candid, at-home setting. She wore a breezy pink outfit for the relaxed shoot, which produced some of her most natural and enduring images. Walt Disney personally inspects the construction of Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland in 1954, just a year before the park opened. The entire Magic Kingdom was built on a 160-acre orange grove in Anaheim, California. A fresh-faced Stephen Colbert smiles for a photo around 1984, while studying to be a serious actor at Northwestern University. Before he developed his famous conservative pundit character, he was part of an improv comedy troupe called the No Fun Unstoppables. British soldiers find a moment of respite on Christmas Day 1916, sharing a holiday meal inside a muddy shell crater. It was a brief, grim celebration on the Western Front during one of the bloodiest years of World War I. A young Arnold Schwarzenegger casually stops traffic while posing on a Melbourne street in 1974. Before he was a movie star, he was touring the world as a champion bodybuilder, promoting the sport to a curious public. An Iranian family enjoys a day at the beach in the early 1970s, a common sight before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. This glimpse shows a westernized culture that would dramatically change in the years that followed. Elvis Presley shares a scene with actress Deborah Paget on the set of his first film, Love Me Tender, in 1956. The movie's title song became Presley's first million-selling single, cementing his crossover from music to movies. Alec Guinness and Omar Sharif are seen here between takes on the set of Lawrence of Arabia in 1962. Director David Lean cast the established star Guinness, but the relatively unknown Sharif only won his career-making role after 20 other actors turned it down. An ironworker balances precariously while setting a section of the World Trade Center's antenna in place in 1979. The job was done 1,650 feet above the streets of New York, with little of the safety equipment that would be required today. The notoriously private movie star Greta Garbo gives a rare smile as she arrives in New York in 1938. Known for avoiding the press, her public appearances were major events that always drew a crowd. A young Lauren Bacall enjoys a coffee and a smoke in 1946, shortly after becoming a star. She was just 19 when she delivered her famously sultry line, "You know how to whistle, don't you?" in her debut film. Audrey Hepburn reviews a script or notes while on break from filming in 1957. That year, she starred in two of her most famous films, the musical Funny Face and the romantic comedy Love in the Afternoon. During the Pacific War in 1941, Japanese propaganda often used humor, as seen in this photo of women mocking Winston Churchill's initial. To an English speaker, WC was a clear and unflattering reference to a water closet. Hollywood star James Stewart, a decorated B-24 pilot, appears here in his Army Air Force's uniform with Ginger Rogers in 1942. He put his acting career on hold and flew 20 combat missions over Europe during the war. Famed photographer Helmut Newton captured this striking image of Sigourney Weaver in 1983. The androgynous, tailored suit presented a powerful look that was a stark contrast to her on-screen Ripley persona. The eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes is seen here in the mid-40s at the controls of a large remote console. He was personally testing a scale model of his enormous H-4 Hercules, better known as the Spruce Goose. Actress Jean Tierney was known for her stunning beauty in the 1940s, captured here in a classic studio headshot. Her unique look was the result of her father forming a family corporation, Belle Tier, just to promote her acting career. Pop superstar Cher and Southern rocker Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers Band had a famously turbulent marriage in the 70s. Their relationship, which lasted just a few years, was a constant source of material for the tabloids of the era. The apparent sag in the Titanic's profile wasn't a flaw, but an intentional design feature called shear. This upward curve of the deck from bow to stern improved the ship's stability in rough seas and was considered aesthetically pleasing. Director Alfred Hitchcock conducts a sound test for his first talky. The 1929 film Blackmail. Because his lead actress had a heavy Czech accent, he had another actress just off camera speak the lines into a microphone while she mouthed the words. The rainy, neon-lit streets of 2019 Los Angeles were meticulously crafted for the 1982 film Blade Runner. Director Ridley Scott's crew built these futuristic cityscapes on the old Warner Brothers backlot, famously used for classic New York-based movies. American photographer James Abbey took this rare portrait of Joseph Stalin inside the Kremlin in 1932. He noted that during the photo session, Stalin seemed guarded and self-conscious, a stark contrast to his powerful public image. Soviet circus performer Irina Bugrimova is seen here with one of her lions in a publicity shot from the 1970s. She was the first female lion tamer in the Soviet Union and was known for her incredibly close and commanding relationship with the big cats. During the kitchen debate in Moscow in 1959, Vice President Richard Nixon offered Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev a cup of Pepsi. This impromptu taste test eventually led to a massive barter deal where Pepsi became the first American consumer product sold in the USSR au Dior. The world's first airline stewardesses were introduced by United Airlines in 1930 and were all registered nurses. Their primary job wasn't serving drinks, but to calm passengers' fears and make the new concept of air travel seem safer. Members of the Guardian Angels stand watch on a New York City subway car in the early 1980s. The unarmed citizen patrol group, easily identified by their red berets, was formed to combat the high crime rates on the transit system. A competitor in the World Pole Sitting Championships in the Netherlands eats a meal on his perch in 1971. This bizarre endurance contest required participants to remain on top of a pole for as long as possible, with minimal breaks. Italian actress Sophia Loren digs her hands into the wet cement during her hand and footprint ceremony at Grauman's Chinese Theater. The 1962 event solidified her status as one of Hollywood's biggest international stars. A typical New York City subway car in 1963 shows a sea of men in hats, all engrossed in their daily newspapers. Before smartphones, the morning paper was the primary source of news and the standard companion for any commuter. The ultimate 1950s home entertainment center combined a television, a radio, and a fully stocked cocktail cabinet. This all-in-one unit was designed for the new suburban lifestyle, where hosting guests for drinks and TV was the height of fashion. This 1910 photograph is often mislabeled as a Titanic survivor, but it actually captures a moment from the UK's suffragette movement. A working-class man is asking a well-dressed woman to sign a petition supporting women's right to vote. Known as a Vespasian, this ornate public urinal was photographed by Charles Marville on the streets of Paris around 1875. They were installed by the thousand as part of Emperor Napoleon III's massive public sanitation reforms.